Well, good evening, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, October the 19th. I'd like to let everybody know that there has been an addition to the agenda, and that is in the communications portion of the agenda, and it's item 10.3, and it's a request from Villages United, and we'll discuss that when we get to that part of the agenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. I've just lost something. Hold on one sec. Here. So it has been, I think, a tough few days for many of us. Like me, I'm sure that you are still shocked, having learned about the unspeakable crime of the murder of British MP Sir David Amess. Sir Amess was just doing his job, serving his country and his constituents by meeting with them. The shock and horror of it all is really too much to comprehend. And by all accounts, he was an incredibly esteemed MP, with tributes coming in from all aisles of the House of Commons. And then on Monday, I was further saddened when the news broke about the death of Colin Powell. And I'm sure that there are not many public servants around that were as well respected as he was. Here is a man who was raised humbly and worked his way through military ranks to eventually serve as the first African-American Secretary of State. He served under 4 presidents and was sought after by many leaders for advice. He certainly taught those watching him and working with him that service to country is something to be proud of. And yes, while mistakes were made under his watch, he was always calm in the face of a storm and never shied away from owning those mistakes and moving forward. As I read the tributes that poured in for both Sir Amess and Secretary of State Powell, I couldn't help but be sad. It seems that leaders such as these men are fewer and farther between. And while the positions that they held seem so very far away from Lucan Biddulph, we can still learn so much from them. It's during times like these that I try and find speeches or quotes that resonate. And I found this one from Colin Powell, and in learning more about Sir Amess, I believe it's the approach that he took in his leadership as well. It will certainly be something that I will strive to be able to do, and I hope it's something that you can take inspiration from as well. It's quite simple, really. Great leaders are almost always great simplifiers who can cut through argument, debate, and doubt to offer a solution everybody can understand. If as leaders we can come up with solutions, then we have done our job. And more importantly, we've honored 2 incredible men who we never knew personally, but they impacted the world in ways that they never knew. And just think about the difference that we can make. So we don't have to go into closed session today, but we do have a drainage issue in front of us, and that is to consider the drainage report with regards to the Clandeboye drain. And joining us is Mike DeVos from Spreets. And at this point, I will turn it over to Mr. DeVos to help us understand what's in front of us.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I believe Mr. DeVos is having some audio issues, but I see just one on. Mike, are you okay there?
He's unmuted, but I don't know whether he can hear us. Does he?
It appears not. Now, he doesn't have a little symbol down in the corner, so I think we can hear him, which is weird. I don't know, Jeff, can you maybe text him? Ask him if he can say something.
No incoming sound.
Okay.
Why don't I'll put him out and put him back in again, see what happens.
Okay. For those watching on YouTube, just please bear with us.
Mike, can you hear us?
Mm-mm. Must be something on his end.
I would probably suggest that he totally exits out and logs back in.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
there we go.
Can you hear
Okay.
us?
I can't hear you, but I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, I'm assuming that you wish me to present the report. This is a report under Section 4 of the Drainage Act for a new municipal drain. In this case, the petition was to incorporate existing storm drains in Clandeboye proper. There were a number of different pipes that had been installed over time by different road authorities, and it was the county who initially petitioned, and the municipalities also requested the pipes to be included. So this report that incorporates all these private tiles to become a municipal drain for future maintenance purposes, so that there was proper documentation as to their location, where what they were being served, and also to investigate the sizing and the performance of the pipes. We did look into the construction of an additional pipe along Denfield Road north of Clandeboye. It was decided upon review with the parties that it was the expense of it for the benefit was too high, and so that we did not proceed with that at the owner's request. But it was part of our investigation work. So it is strictly to incorporate the pipes. There was a small amount of maintenance on the southeast corner of the intersection to provide some benching and regrading to an existing catch basin to increase the performance of that catch basin in that one location. But other than that, the cost of this particular report is mostly administration cost to go through the process with schedules that outline the distribution of the cost of future maintenance. So at that point, I'll stop and open up to questions.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions from those from the public that have registered. And just so everybody knows, since Mike can't hear us, anybody familiar with Zoom knows that there's a chat feature. And what we'll do is we'll input the questions into that so that Mike knows what questions are being asked of him. And I think maybe too, that'll be a communication between Jeff and Mike on the cell phone. So we've got, I can see on the attendees list that we've got 2 that have registered for this portion of the meeting. And I would ask Lisa to unmute Nolan Goldie. And Mr. Goldie, do you have any questions for us, for Mike DeVos at this time on the drain?
Currently not right now.
Okay, thank you. And then the other resident who's registered is Anne Rawlings. Mrs. Rawlings, do you have any questions at this time?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. And we'll make sure that your question gets to Mike. So if you can ask your question.
The admin cost of nearly $30,000, is that covered by the municipality or does it get paid by us, the taxpayers involved?
Okay. Jeff's just asking that. Jeff Little's just asking that question of Mr. DeVos, and Mike will answer it in a sec. We apologize for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, for this particular project, the municipalities and the county, they offered to pay the cost. It could have been assessed to the landowners, including the roads, as a group, but in this case, they volunteered to pick it up so that the landowners didn't have any cost.
Okay.
Do you have any follow up to that, Anne?
Yes, I do. The actual cost, the small cost of the actual work that's being done, do we pay that, or again, does the municipality pay that?
Okay.
that is the roads in this case.
Pardon?
Jeff, I don't think she heard.
That's, the roads have volunteered to pick that up as well.
The roads department.
Okay.
Okay. And anything further?
And future maintenance costs, is that just, you know, minor stuff like a little bit of regrading and stuff? It isn't like the cost of a brand new pipe going in.
Typically, it would just be maintenance. It is possible to replace stretches of the drain. If it gets to the point of replacing in the entire drain, that would typically be done through a new report.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then at this point, I would ask council if council has any questions for Mike. Deputy Mayor Manders.
I just have 10 questions. No, just wondering if you lived in Granton, Lucan, you already know that if there needs to be repairs done, you're part of percentage you got to pay. Is there anything to protect change? Like, so if you lived in that area, maybe you would know if you bought a property, sold a property, that you wouldn't have to pay that. So does that go on to is there any change into the deed? So if somebody was to sell their property next year, that they know they're on the hook for future repairs. Does that make sense, Jeff? Like, is there anything when change, property ownership change expense has changed as of today or whenever this is done? So is it kind of buyer beware?
So just to repeat the question, Mike, the deputy mayor asked if a house changed or if a property changed hands, does the property owner, the new property owner, know if that there's a cost associated with the draining to them if they bought the house? And through the mayor, I'll jump in. So, deputy mayor, one of the things that happens when there is a sale of a property, Tina will ask the different departments certain questions, and one of the questions that comes to across my desk is there an outlet? And most properties in the municipality will have an outlet. Some have two, some have three, and then a follow up to that question: is there assessment associated with that outlet, so that if there's any outstanding costs associated with that drain, I can say yes. Or if there's any planned assessment coming for that drain, I also can say yes. So if a new property owner buys a property, they are given the information that there is, one, an outlet, and two, whether there's any current assessment associated with that outlet. Is that sort of what you're looking for?
You can tell Mike I'm satisfied with that. Yep.
Okay. So Mike, he's good with that. Yeah.
Okay, and then I think I saw Councillor Reagan's hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if it's for Jeff or for Mike. So just a technical term, when I was reading through the report, I'm not sure what benching or benched means. And second to that, sort of second part of that is page 5 of the report, it talks about grants. And I'm wondering if it's a standard process for us to apply for these grants. It says that it will, it'll help offset the cost of assessments. I wonder if that's something we do and lessens the cost for the municipality or for the ratepayer.
Okay, I could probably, but I'll give these two to Mike, because there's no sense me clouding the issues here. So Mike, the first question was from Councilor Reagan, was that benching. In the report it mentions benching. Is there can we give what benching is? And then there's a follow-up question, but I'll let you go with the benching to start with.
Okay, benching is when you put concrete in the bottom of a catch basin or a manhole and shape it such that the water coming in and out does not have the turbulence of a square box.
So it's a technical description of how catch basins are filled, manholes are directing water. So the second question, Mike, that Councillor Reagan had was on page 5. There's a mention of a grant, and maybe if Councillor Reagan, can you just refresh that question? You were asking about.
Yeah, I heard it. It's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Grants are typically available on municipal drain projects for properties that are deemed to be agricultural by the ministry. So it is typical that the municipality will apply for the grants. We do identify those properties at the time the report is prepared. They will get reviewed by the Ministry of Ag and Food at the time when the project is being built out to confirm that the status hasn't changed since that time. So agricultural properties are not eligible.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Clan-du-Bois drain report? Okay, then the motion in front of us is that the drainage report for the Clan-du-Bois drain 2021 is prepared by Spreet and Associates dated August 31st, 2021, be received and adopted. And we're going to do two of them or combine two motions, and that the first sitting of the Court of Revision on behalf of the Clan-du-Bois drain 2021 be scheduled to be held on November 16th, 2021 at 6:30. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Reagan. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, and then our next motion is that council adjourn its public meeting in order to sit as the Court of Revision under the Drainage Act to consider the Climate Drain 2021, and that Mayor Kathy Burkhart-Jessen be appointed as chair. A mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed? And that's carried. Okay, so this is the Climate Drain. I think we're all familiar with the background on this. The first thing is any appeals, and I don't believe that there are any appeals that have been received. Are there any questions from the members of the court? Okay, if there are no questions, I don't think we have any deliberations to make. So the recommendation in front of us that the Court of Revision, having met on behalf of the Climate Drain 2021, does hereby adopt the drainage assessment schedule dated June 11th, 2021, as submitted by Spreet Associates. And if I can get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Reagan and Councillor Hodgins, all opposed? And that's carried. And the first and second reading of this will be heard tonight, and then the third reading will be heard 30 days. I think that's how it works, right, Tina?
Sorry, it'll be 30 days. Yes, after this quarter.
Okay. All right. And then the next one we've got is that the Court of Revision be closed at 6:34 p.m. in order to reconvene our regular council meeting. And a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Reagan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Mike.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. So we do have a delegation joining us this evening, and we've got members of the St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation that are joining us to talk about the hospital renewal project that St. Mary's Hospital is undertaking. And joining us are Cindy Billier, Dr. John Scheidel, and I've got two names, but I've got one presenter here from St. Mary's Healthcare. So I don't know whether it's April or Deborah or both of you.
Deborah, are you there? She's from the HPHA, the Healthcare Alliance.
Okay. We've got.
April, are you there? I can't see who's
Okay. I think whoever it is from St. Mary's is having an audio issue. It seems a little broken. Again, I don't know if we can do the same thing. Lisa, take them out and let them in.
Ken, are you there? Ken McCutcheon was going to join us also. I sent him the link.
I'm here.
Oh, there's somebody. And okay, so now who's that?
Ken McCutcheon. He's our fundraising chairperson.
Ken McCutcheon. And maybe I'll get you, Mr. McCutcheon, if you can say hello to make sure we can hear you properly.
Yes, it's Ken McCutcheon.
Great. And Dr. Scheidel, can we just test your audio too?
Yep, I'm here. Hopefully.
Great. Wonderful. And we can hear Cindy. So we've got Cindy, Ken, and John joining us. And at this time, I don't know who's taking the lead, so I will turn it over. We can screen share the presentation that you submitted. So I would ask who's ever going to be doing that on our end, and I'll turn it over to you guys to walk us through the presentation.
Great. I'm actually not going to walk through the presentation.
Okay.
I think you have read it. That's why we said it ahead of time, just so that you would have it. I am going to refer to page 4 if you have any questions about page 4. So that basically outlines some of the items that are going to be highlighted in the renewal project.
Okay. Okay.
Right there. Yes, that's the best page. Well, thank you, Your Worship, councillors and staff, for having us here this evening. I am Cindy Villiers, chair of the St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation. Again, you've introduced Dr. John Scheidel from the Happy Valley Health Team. I'm Deborah Wiseman from the Here in Perth Healthcare Alliance was going to join us. But I'm glad to hear that Ken McCutcheon, the chair of the fundraising, is online tonight. The St. Mary's Memorial Hospital is in need of some infrastructure upgrades to meet the present day healthcare facility standards. And the improvements of this project are significant. You received a financial request of all the municipalities that use the hospital. Your request of $24,000 is based on the usage of your constituents. We feel it is imperative that we provide the best health care for our patients. Excuse my dog. Somebody's obviously pulling up here. I'm not answering the door.
That's okay.
We feel it is imperative that we provide the best health care of our patients, protect and support our staff, and retain our doctors. Our hospital is a vital healthcare provider of this rural area. It provides a great emergency service, in-hospital patient care, and has X-ray and ultrasound capabilities. Again, on page 4, you will see some of the highlighted items that are going into this project. The zero pressure isolation room has been brought to our attention due to the pandemic. So that will be something that will improve infectious disease control in the future here. And yeah, it's just a huge item to have in a hospital. At present, we don't have one. So John, if I can call on you to tell us what it means to the staff at the hospital and the doctors, I'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Cindy, and again, thanks for having me as well. I will just reiterate, obviously, this is a project that's will allow our hospital to kind of meet the standard of care for hospitals in Ontario and across the country. There are certain standards, and this will certainly allow us to kind of meet that standard. No doubt the hospital will ultimately provide a nice, a safe and very productive work environment moving forward. A lot of the upgrades will certainly help to, again, provide for staff safety as well as patient safety, not only on the nursing side, but also on the physician side. Certainly, it also, I think, will help with our abilities to recruit, staff into our facility as we would be, at the standard like London or in terms of the safety protocols. And so it certainly, these additions are, obviously much needed, and ultimately there's some other things there that will also help with, enhance the patient experience and allow patients to recover in our hospital as well. Certainly, if there's any questions regarding, some of the more, in terms of zero pressure isolation, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, obviously, it's something that, in the time of COVID will allow us to provide, care, especially when we're dealing with sort of respiratory borne illnesses. And again, it will not only help with the hospital safety, but also with patient safety and staff safety. So, if there's any questions and more details, certainly I'm happy to answer now or at a later date through email.
Okay. I guess I will open up for questions then.
I have a
do you have
couple
something
more
else,
things
Cindy?
to say. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Kathy.
absolutely. Sorry about
No,
that,
it's
Cindy.
okay. We've been asking municipalities for 20% of our total campaign of $3 million. And we've received positive responses from local area municipalities presentations to date. The Here in Perth Healthcare Alliance and the St. Mary's Foundation will invest approximately $6 million in this renewal project, which is planned to start construction in June 2022. Our foundation has already committed $2 million towards this project, and we will be launching a $3 million campaign on November the 1st. The tagline for our campaign is "Here for You Today, Building for Tomorrow." So with that, Ken, have you got anything else you would like to add? Ken has done a lot of presentations to a lot of municipalities, so he's my backup information man here. So
I don't think anything to add that hasn't been already covered, Cindy.
okay, thank you, Ken. So if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Regan, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, folks. I'm just curious as to the numbers of people from Lucan Biddulph that access the hospital on a yearly basis.
Do you want numbers?
Yes.
Okay, we actually sent that to you, I believe. Lucan Biddulph in 2019, there were 609 visits. In 2020, there was 382 visits, and that's what the 4% percentage comes from. Yeah, but.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't see it in the presentation, so I must have missed that. That's on me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It was a separate one pager aside from the PowerPoint, Councillor Regan. So.
Okay. Well, that's me and technology. That's on me. Thank you.
Any other questions from council at this time? Councillor Westman.
Hi there, everybody. So those visits, are those to the clinic or to the hospital and the clinic, or just the hospital?
No, those will all be hospital inpatient visits or emergency department visits or x-ray visits.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I can say that I am a Lucan Biddulph resident that has used the emergency department quite often, not for me, but for my children. So yes, well aware of the work that is done, and certainly the list that you provided. I don't think anybody can question the needs for, that COVID has shown what needs to be done. Okay, any other questions, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Manders?
Yeah, just curious, you're gonna have to educate me, it's probably a poor question, but so if I assume, well, I shouldn't assume, I'm thinking that this may go to our budget when we deliberate our budget here coming up for the donation, is my guess. But if we only give a percentage or nothing or everything, and the different municipalities that you've asked do the same thing, how is that shortfall covered?
Well, we hope to do it through our campaign. Plus, the ministry also provides grants for capital purchases at certain times. I think that's the correct answer, Ken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know with sprinkler systems that actually just has happened, and that was the government is requiring that to be mandated and updated by 2025, I believe. So that is something that a grant would probably cover through the ministry.
Okay, because I might be wrong in this, staff. I don't need to know the answer, but in my past 12 years, I believe South Huron's asked for similar donations of our residents using their facility, and where we are situated, it's interesting. As the mayor stated, her family's used your facility, and I can say as deputy mayor, for whatever reason's gone to South Huron. And again, using the taxpayers' money, it's there's definitely a need for it. I don't know where I sit on it. I think certainly we need to be aware of what budget numbers are. Is my input to the rest of council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Deputy Mayor Manders, that I think this presentation we can receive for information, but it needs to be, discussed during budget times with all other requests that we receive. And I mean, you certainly picked the perfect time to present to not only our municipality, but our neighbors as well, in that, we're just preparing for budget season. So certainly it will form part of our discussion and deliberations, and we will communicate back with you how those go, and probably I would suspect beginning of the year and into the beginning of the spring at the latest. So at this time, I'll thank you for joining us and thank you for the presentation. Certainly, I wish you the best of luck. It's no secret we're starting a capital campaign for the Arena and Community Center at the same time. So there's lots of great projects out there, and of course, a hospital we know is priceless to a community. And even though the St. Mary's Hospital's in St. Mary's, the residents in Lucan Biddulph are certainly thankful for the services that are offered there and having the doors available to us. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll say goodnight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for your time. And we will be chatting in the future. If you ever have any questions, please forward them to our office assistant and she'll get them to us.
Absolutely. We absolutely will.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to our minutes in front of us. And we got the motion. That's right. Sorry, just noticing that. Thanks, Tina. That the presentation from the St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation regarding the hospital renewal project be received for information. And a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All opposed? And that's carried. And now we'll move on to the minutes. So we've got two sets of minutes in front of us from September 21st and for October 5th. And if nothing needed to be amended or clarified, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve both sets of minutes as circulated, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All opposed? And those are carried. There is no new business arising. Everything is still ongoing. So we'll move on to correspondence. And we've got a number of items that we've received over the last couple of weeks, and a few that we're looking to speak to. The first one is the annual request from the Lucan Legion regarding the temporary road closure for Remembrance Day. And I don't know who wants to speak to that, just to give a little bit of history as to that request.
Madam Mayor, I can speak to that one. It's been tradition, I guess is the best word to describe it, that we have a road closure out in front of the Legion on Market Street Park by the cenotaph. And that, like I said, it's a bit of a tradition. It's been on a yearly basis. The mayor's out there, and a bunch of other dignitaries for that wreath laying ceremony. And for that purpose, we typically are asked and have closed the road for a set amount of time. And that, I believe that bylaw is included with the council package tonight.
Any questions on that? So the motion in front of us is that council authorizes the temporary road closure of Market Street on November 11th, 2021, between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. for the annual Remembrance Day service, and that the implementing road closure bylaw be passed. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Reagan, seconder. Councillor Westman, all opposed, and that's carried. Okay, the next one on the list is a letter from Animal Care and Control Center in Lobo. Ron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This letter unfortunately came a bit out of the blue for us. It was short and sweet, and you know, we were very happy with their service, and by the look of their letter, they were happy to serve Lucan Biddulph in that capacity for the, you know, I think they've been our pound for as long as I can remember, really. So unfortunately, they're not. It's not a viable business with only Lucan Biddulph's business. We are fortunate in that we don't use them that much, but they've had another business opportunity presented to them, so they will be ceasing operations effective December 31st with regards to serving Lucan Biddulph. So Tina and I, the deputy clerk and I, are actively looking for alternatives. I noticed with interest last week, I believe in the Exeter paper, that it looks like all the lower tiers in Huron County are looking for a combined animal control contractor. So we will be making some phone calls, and we will be reaching out to different organizations, some close by, some further afield, but we will have something before council before the end of the year.
Thank you for that update. The next item that is pulled is the one that we've added to the agenda, and that is the request from the Villages United. And it just came in the beginning of the week, and I think we'll all remember that they're going to have some activities on October 30th, and they're looking to use the pavilion. And Ron, I think they've included how much it is, but if you want to talk to that.
I believe the rental fee is $90. So this is what council is being asked to waive for that event. And I discussed this with the Parks and Recreation Manager, Paul Smith, before the meeting tonight. And certainly there's been some history there as well. So he has no issues with it whatsoever. And he's actually recommending that council waive the fee as per their request.
Any questions on this? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Would we not have them pay it and then give it back as a donation? Isn't it a slippery slope there? And if we still have room in our budget for the donation, if we don't, then I'm not sure where I sit on it.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, if I may answer that question, I believe that's how it works. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I believe that's how it works. It comes out of the donation budget, so it doesn't adversely impact our revenues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that request? Seeing none, I would ask for a verbal motion to either accept the request or deny the request. If I can get a mover or seconder. Councillor Reagan.
Motion to accept the request.
Okay. It's Councillor Reagan and a seconder. Councillor Hodgins. All opposed? And that's carried. So we'll make sure that Parks and Rec gets that, and then they can work appropriately with the church to make sure that that's all handled correctly. Are there any other items of correspondence that council wanted to speak to? Yes, I just wanted to make reference to the second one in the balance of correspondence, and that was the thank you letter that was sent out to the participants, and a similar one was sent out to sponsors for the Warden's Golf Tournament. I wonder how many meetings we can have when I can talk about the golf tournament. But anyways, I just wanted to share this because at the last meeting, when I thanked everybody for the participation, at that point, the dollars raised and how much was going to the Legion and Victim Services in the end was not public. And so at this point, I just want to announce that the Warden's Golf Tournament this year raised $24,000, a new record for Middlesex County Warden's Golf Tournaments. And in doing so, was able to direct $20,000 to our local Legion, and then $4,000 went to Victim Services in Middlesex, London. So it certainly was a lot of fun giving out those checks, and certainly the two organizations, I think, appreciated that. If nobody else wanted to speak to any items of correspondence, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information purposes. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All opposed? And that's carried. Moving on to committee reports. Deputy Mayor Manders, Blue Water Recycling.
I would meet Thursday.
Okay. CEDC.
We meet next week as well.
Okay. Lake Huron, we did have our meeting last week, at which time we approved the operating and capital budgets for 2022. And I think we'll remember in years past when I've reported on the change in rate, you'll recall that Lake Huron always presents a 5-year financial plan of where they let everybody know where they see water rates going. And the projected water rate increase for 2021 was 3%. However, because of changes in usage and more users on the system, for 2021, the water rate will increase by 1.5%. So it is a good news budget in that for us, as the end user for Lake Huron, obviously it's less of an increase. And they've still been able to make significant investments in some employment changes. There's going to be some additional administrative staff hired, and certainly they're in the same boat as we are when it comes to insurance, and our insurance costs have skyrocketed. So we've been able to manage all of that and still only come down with a 1.5% increase to the member municipalities. So if anybody's interested in the budget document, I have it in my office, and you can certainly go through that and see what's on the horizon for Lake Huron. Fire boards, nothing from the fire boards. ABCA and Upper Thames, Alex.
Yeah, so our meeting for ABCA is on Thursday, and Upper Thames is next Tuesday. However, we did hold our first budget meeting for Sauble Bayfield. There was some good takeaways from that. I mean, obviously with still the shortage of vehicles and so on, we were able to extend the life of some of our vehicles and save a little money. There's been some project deferrals as well. When we looked at the assessments for the levies for each municipality, with all our growth, there will be an increase in the levy for Lucan Biddulph. The number I saw on the sheet looked like around 3 and a bit percent. So that's something. Now, if we're interested in having someone from the authority come and speak to council, then we should be reaching out to them, or they'll be reaching out to us in the next little bit to come and present that. As usual, that's a common thing. So, but other than that, I mean, no great big shockers in the budget. I think we're still kind of in COVID mode regarding certain projects and what have you. So there's that. There was a few things we discussed in the last little while about shoreline management and some of the things that go along the Lake Huron shoreline that are kind of interesting. I mean, there are a lot of cottage properties and along there that are experiencing a lot of erosion, and there's a lot of problems with property owners taking things, doing some shoreline erosion control of their own that's not quite approved or approvable. So that creates a little bit of a legal tangle for us. So those costs will certainly go up over the next little while as we battle those battles. But the permitting and the process, there's been a good experience, I think, for us as a municipality with the Sauble Bayfield and Upper Thames as far as getting permits and getting work done. So I guess that's the extent of my report for today.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Westman. Do you know when the Upper Thames budget discussions are starting?
Yeah, that's coming up this month. We're going to begin having discussions. So
okay,
it's pretty standard this time of year.
Yep. Okay, any questions for Councillor Westman? Parks and Rec, I don't believe there's anything. Paul didn't submit anything, so we'll move on to our staff reports. And the first one up is from Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen here. There we go. So the first one is the vaccination policy. So the purpose of the report is to present a policy that conforms to the directive issued by the Medical Officer of Health of the Middlesex London Health Unit in regards to mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations for parks and recreation facility staff, volunteers, new hires, as well as contractors and or subcontractors using the Lucan Biddulph Community Memorial Center. So council may recall that there is now a vaccination passport requirement for entry into the facility. So I guess it's not a stretch to see this one coming. So again, the Medical Officer of Health has required this, has issued an order under section 2, sub 2 of the, I believe it's schedule 1 to Ontario Regulation 364/20, which are the rules for areas at step 3. And so the attached policy pertains to the Parks and Recreation staff as per the directive of the Middlesex London Director of Health, and it's to comply with that order. So it's fairly straightforward. The adoption of the policy will not materially affect the approved 2021 budget, and it aligns with the strategic direction number 1, action number 4, as well as strategic direction number 3 and action number 17 in the township's strategic plan. So I'm happy to present the policy for council tonight. I think it's fairly straightforward. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Ron on this? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Just one thing that caught my attention was the subcontractors with all the construction we got coming up. So is that mandated? We got to have that in there. Is they're not in contact, obviously, during construction with anybody from our public, and it's a concern even going to tender with that in there. Does that have to be in there?
I think what you'll find across the board is most contractors this will be sort of a standard clause on anything going forward. I would expect this is not going to be a surprise to any of the contractors that they're going to be bidding on this thing, because again, we're not the only community center. There's many community centers. I'm sure a lot of them are looking at construction. So I understand your concern, and I don't necessarily disagree. However, I think this is going to be the new normal.
I agree, but does it, it is in steps. Is it mandatory we have that clause in there for contractors? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Certainly there wouldn't be anything stopping the municipality from writing a letter to the medical officer of health with that concern. If council saw fit, because yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Madam Mayor, one more thing. There was a question earlier about whether this was a temporary policy or a permanent policy on a go-forward basis. And I would suggest, while the word temporary isn't found in the actual policy, the policy will only remain in place as long as that order remains in effect from the medical officer of health.
So, and then it can be rescinded.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So once the medical officer of health rescinds that order, we can then in turn rescind our policy as well.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Hodgins.
Yeah, just a question. The report, like it references parks and recreation staff. I'm just wondering if it applies to all staff of the municipality, public works staff or administrative staff, or just parks and rec.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to answer the councillor's questions, it's this policy is enacted to directly follow the order as handed down by the medical officer of health. So it's strictly for those employees who work in the Parks and Recreation Department and enter and exit the Lucan Community Memorial Center.
Any follow-up, Councillor Hodgins?
No follow-up. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, then seeing not, the recommended motion in front of us is that council receive report number CAO-16-2021 and that policy number 102-05-2021 be adopted. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Reagan. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, you have anything else, Ron?
One more thing included in the package tonight is an encroachment agreement, and that pertains to the property. I forget the street number. It's on Main Street. It's the corner of
213. It's 213.
Is it Water Street or is it Main Street?
No, it's Main Street. 213 Main.
213 Main Street. So it's the corner of Water and Main Street. The garage that's attached to that house actually encroaches onto our property, and that property that we own actually, I believe, came to us due to non-payment of taxes at some point. So it might have been 50 years ago now, but so that garage overhangs onto municipal property. So that property was recently sold. So what we're trying to do is get an encroachment agreement that sort of recognizes the history to that property. It really doesn't have any impact on us. However, we need to ensure that as far as liability issues go, that we are covered. So we're putting the onus on the property owners to maintain proper insurance, that we are named as co-insured. And what we're trying to do is make it administratively simple so that we don't have to revisit this every year. So the onus is on the property owner to ensure that we are covered in that. So again, happy to answer any questions. It's fairly straightforward. We do get these from time to time. I think I've been party to maybe 3 over the last 30 years. So 1 every 10 years, I guess, is not too bad.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay.
And that's all I had.
That's it. Okay, all right. Thank you. Tina.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, the 2022 council meeting schedule has been presented in the report attached. This was discussed at the last meeting about continuing with 2 daytime meetings for 2022. So the schedule has been developed with 1 morning meeting in the spring, April 5th, and then 1 of them in the summer months, which will cover a public meeting as well to see how participation unfolds with that. The conferences are noted at the bottom, and the March dates have been amended just to reflect the OGRA conference, because it does fall when a regular scheduled council meeting would happen. So those dates are the 2nd and 4th week of March instead of the 1st and 3rd that normally are. And With the dates going forward after November 1st, those dates will pertain to new council members. The election date next year is October 24th. And with the new election regulations, council will be sworn in at November 1st instead of December 1st next year. So that will take place at the November 1st meeting for new council members at that time. If there's any questions?
Any questions for Tina on the schedule? Doesn't look like it. You got anything else, Tina?
Yeah, just a couple of things on the topic of conferences. So the Roma conference is the end of January. It's a virtual event. It's January 23rd to the 25th. There is a motion included in tonight's package for Mayor Burkhart Jessen to attend. If there's anyone else that was wishing to attend that, if they could email me or let me know. And the OGRA conference as well. The dates are February 27th through to March 2nd, so that's a Sunday through a Wednesday. The hotel registration has opened up for OGRA, so we would like to proceed with booking hotel accommodations as soon as possible, just to ensure that hotels rooms can be accommodated. It is at the Royal York in Toronto again this year, so if there's anyone looking to attend, they can either let me know now or email, or but as soon as possible would be great. And I see Councillor Westman has his hand up there. I know that he regularly attends and looks like he would like to continue to do so. And that's everything for me tonight.
Certainly that is exciting that Good Roads will be hosted in person. So that'll be anxious to see how that goes. So, and then as I say, and as Tina said, Roma is virtual. All right, any questions for Tina on that? And I think registration has opened up for Good Roads as well. The same as, I think there's an early bird date too, because I think the county registered me already. If there aren't any other questions for Tina, then we do have a motion that the council receives report number CL-06-2021 and further adopts the 2022 council meeting schedule as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All opposed, and that's carried. Okay, moving into finance. Catherine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I have in front of you the budget to actual as of the end of the third quarter for this year, similar to how I've presented it in the past. Just a couple of things to note with the COVID-19 situation. We haven't seen a lot of expenses to date. Whether we ever started to collect expenses in regards to the security over at the community center. That being said, we did set the budget with COVID in mind, and a lot of the numbers were reduced or reflected what we expected to happen in the pandemic. So you can see in some of the numbers, like for one of those examples would be the ice rentals. We didn't have anything in the budget until that was started August through December for ice usage, but we, as you know, we have had quite a few rentals, and it was used off and on it. Well, when we could this year, and we actually put the ice in earlier than expected. Of course, you'll have the other side of that is the extra costs of having the part-time staff in a lot earlier than what we budgeted for in August. But in either case, that's a good news story that facility is being used. Other things I had to note, I mean, there's not a lot of things right now. A lot of things happen in the fourth quarter. For example, the fire levy and our second invoice from ABCA will come in. So that way that line for protective services looks lower, but I expect that'll be fully at 100% because those costs are known when we set the budget. And then if in that same section, I'm looking at the summary page in general government, if I take out right now that reserves line that I have zero actual because I haven't moved anything over based on budgeted yet. But if I removed that commitment from the tax base to put into reserves, then the number for total expenses would be at 70%, which is still pretty good for being 75% throughout through the year. The other things I have noted, I added in were the pool, of course, has no expenses or revenue because we weren't able to have it, but that was because we didn't want to. It's because we didn't have the proper staff for it. We have started to see a little bit of spend in the bar area because of request for certain funerals. So that's why we're just keeping a little bit of stock on hand for that. So that's why that has amounts in there without any budget. Also, as noted in my report, is the insurance impact that we had. Our renewal is September 1st, so it affects the last 4 months of our year. And in our budget, we had only put in a 10% when we set the budget, and it actually came in at 22%. So we're lucky that our renewal is so late in the year. It didn't really have that big of effect. It's about $6,000 over these the four departments that I have in my report. So when you look at our 2022 budget, we'll already have that, what we're at, that 22% increase. So what we'll have for the most of the year. And then we'll come up with some percent that we want to budget for and further increase for the last 4 months when we get to that. If there's any questions, I can take those. I know Councillor Hodgins hasn't had an opportunity really to go through this in detail. He probably hasn't seen this before, but if he wants to offline or another time, I can do that. I have no problem. If he has any questions, or if anyone has questions now, then I can answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Catherine. So any questions on the year-to-date numbers that have been received? Okay, seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive report number FIN-15-2021 for information. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. All opposed? And that's carried. And do you have anything else, Catherine?
I just want to mention that last week we had the auditors were doing the interim report. They were or interim audit, and they were in-house for 1 day. And I just want to say that everything so far seems to be going pretty smoothly. They're very happy so far with the work we've provided, and they'll be back after year end, so January, February timeframe, to do some more, and then our final audit tentatively will be early April, once we get more of the year-end numbers together. And that's it.
Okay.
We're still working on budget too.
Any questions for Catherine at this time? Okay, thank you for that. There's no planning. Public Works, Jeff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm just a couple of quick notes. One, a follow-up to our grader, which I had brought forward to council in the summer when we had engine problems. It has come back. Obviously, it wasn't a new engine or a repair or a fix to the engine. What it was we had a component inside the engine failed, and the oil was being drawn into the coolant system. So we had to replace a bunch of gaskets. I had to take the engine apart, clean it, and do a bunch of work. But the good news is originally we had talked about 50,000 as a repair. It came back in at 26,000. So still a hefty bill, still not a great bill, but on a grader of the age of it, I think we dodged one. We dodged one there. So grader's back. It's ready for winter, and that's good news. The second item I just wanted to touch on is that on November 5th, we have the special council meeting for the expansion of the Lucan wastewater treatment plant. As kind of I don't want to say committee, but there's a standing panel that we just had a meeting, kind of went over some information that will be presented to council coming up on the November 5th meeting. I think it'll be a very interesting meeting. There's a lot of, we're finally getting a lot of the nuts and bolts of the expansion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that meeting coming up. So other than that, it's status quo out there. We're preparing stuff now for winter. We'll be looking at staffing and equipment and winter procedures over the next couple of weeks. So other than that, that's about it.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Okay. Parks and Rec. Paul is not able to join us this evening, so Ron is going to speak to Paul's report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So Paul's report had a bit of an update with regard to the soccer complex, the engineering component of it. So the purpose of the report is just to basically inform council where we are in the process. So the request for proposal for engineering services went out last week. They were sent out to five engineering firms, AGM, let me get this right here, Dillon Consulting, BM Ross, Development Engineering, and GM Blue Plan. So those are all the engineering firms that we typically have had experience with and have dealt with through various aspects in our community. So the site has had a topographical survey completed, and actually today, this morning, I believe I received the environmental report from EXP. They had a drilling rig out on site on the 16th of September to do core samples. So that report has now been received as well, along with the request for the proposals. It also had a sort of an outline of how the I guess you could call it a site plan of how those 4 fields will look, as well as a definite area that would contain a potential future change house, I guess you could say, washroom, change house, and a bit of a storage area for the site. So that is in process. The engineering proposals are supposed to be back by, I think it's 2 weeks from last Friday. So we will have a report. It might be a late report, but it will be a report to the first meeting in November.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Reagan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ron. I'm just seeing here that it says that the construction, it looks like in the spring of 2022, the kids are going to be able to play soccer 2022. We're still going to be able to use the field by the tower. Do we know that, or?
So we have had discussions with the contractor there, and they are expecting that we will continue to be able to use that upper field, or what we call the upper field, the one underneath the water tower, for the 2022 season.
All right. Okay.
So
No,
nothing changes. The field will be constructed and seeded down in 2022. With the expectation of playing, that kids will be able to play on that field come 2023.
Okay. No, I know with the next Parks and Rec meeting, being the chair, I'm probably going to get that question. So I just want to make sure. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
Just want to make sure it's in the staff's thoughts and that it's going to be done as the after the seeding, that whether we talk to Public Works or they can be awful to buy because it's for a short term, but those cement barricades to go around the seating area and or good fencing. I know of numerous people that'll take their vintage sleds out there and tour around. They wouldn't want to do that purposely. Probably wouldn't know that with a small snowfall, and that would really, that's a substantial investment. So I think as soon as that's seeded, it'll be important to do, some decent safety fencing and barricades. So.
Yep, point well taken, I think.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive report number PR-12-2021 for information. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, economic development. Lisa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. So before you have your little report on the Summerfest of 2021, our first, hopefully first annual event. Council back in July 2021, if you remember, the province kind of loosened up some restrictions to allow us to hold some COVID-friendly events. At that time, we decided we could quickly pull some community event together to kind of keep the spirit alive for the summer. And we had a quick concert and a market, a vendor merchandise market over the summer. We had great response from both. And of course, our community sponsors were an integral part of this event. As you can see from our budget, the expenses and the revenue and the overall surplus was just over $7,000. Now, I think, you know, we've kind of always talked about having a winter fest and something with the lighting of the lights. So, you know, it'd be nice to kind of keep that kind of Summerfest, Winterfest thing going. Again, we had the first annual lighting of the lights last year for COVID. We'd like to kind of increase that a little bit with some more lights and maybe some activities. So I'd like to ask council's permission to kind of use some of those surplus funds to kind of bump up the Winterfest event as much as we can. And then whatever's left over, we continue that on hopefully for 2022 Summerfest. So that is my recommendation, that we kind of move forward on those two events going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Questions, comments? Councillor Regan?
So no, anything that's going to get people back together in some normalcy, I totally support. I did get asked about Santa Claus Parade. Speaking of events, I don't know if you can address that now, and if you can't, that's fine. And Bacon Fest as well. So I'm getting asked about those as well, since we're talking about events and getting people out there and back to normal.
As far as the Santa Claus Parade goes, we have talked to the Optimist Club about it looking like the way it did last year. So more of a drive around town sort of event. Nothing's been kind of finalized yet. We still need, I think we need to talk to the Lions Club and the fire departments about how to organize this. But I think that's kind of the direction of where we're heading for the Santa Claus Parade. As for Bacon Fest, we hopefully at the end of, I guess it'd be November, I won't be at the next meeting. So then the second meeting, we should have a report on Bacon Fest.
All right. Okay, thank you. No, I just from my perspective, I'm just fully in support of these types of events. So just my
Definitely,
thoughts.
we're looking at more of the Summerfest, Winterfest of being more the community kind of events.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, Bacon Fest is, you know, it's obviously a tourist draw as well, but we just kind of feel there's a need for more of a community, you know, celebration.
Yeah. Let me know how I can help. Yep. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for Lisa? Just with the Winterfest, did we get, I can't remember, grant money maybe to purchase some more lights or some more? We did, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we received a grant under the RED project to purchase some more Christmas lights. So Paul and I are working with a contractor to put out some more electrical spots through Market Street Park, so that it'll enable us to kind of position some more Christmas lights for the park, light it up more this year.
Yeah. Great. Okay, if there aren't any other or any further questions on this, the recommended motion in front of you is that report EDC-11-2021 be received for information, and further that the Summerfest 2021 surplus amount be utilized for Winterfest, and that any remaining funds be held in the reserve for 2022 Summerfest, Winterfest. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed. And that's carried. Do you have anything else, Lise? I don't think so. I think she's off. Okay. Councillor comments. Deputy Mayor Manders.
Now that the lights are up, the traffic lights, the next question I get asked all the time is, staff can finish this sentence. Where does the arena project start? When does it start? When does it start and why hasn't it started?
Well, unfortunately, Paul's not here to answer that, so I guess I'll step in at this point. I wish I had a better answer for you. We were hoping that it would be started by now. It's been delayed with the on the engineering side. They are still in the process of preparing the tender documents that need to go out. So not only are we behind, we are behind by a bit, I would suggest, because the tender packages have to be prepared. They have to be advertised, and then the contractors have to have, I don't know. I mean, I would think, 2 weeks is not going to be enough. I would think you'd have to give them almost a month, I would suggest, to get a good price. And then not only do they have to be open, but then they have to be reviewed by the engineer. So yeah, the engineer responsible for the project just got back to work last week. I was speaking to him, and he is supposed to be sending me an email update with some dates on it, because I did ask him for that. I said council needs that and deserves that. So we are expecting an updated timeline from them. So when we get that, hopefully I'll have that for the next meeting.
That's just a timeline for when the specs to send out would be done, or?
Well, what I'm hoping, or what I'm expecting on that timeline, is it says we'll have the tender packages go out this date. 4 weeks later, we open the tenders, and then probably 2 weeks later we award the tender, and then shovel in the ground on this date, and then the construction period of 8 months, whatever it is. That's another disturbing part of the equation here. We are starting to hear big delays on supply of materials. So, when I was on the phone to the engineer, he said they were doing a car dealership in Hamilton, and it took 8 months to get the structural steel trusses on site, and that's in Hamilton, Steel City. Like, that's a scary thing. So yeah, I don't know. We remain
supply materials we can't control, but I hope you can control his timeline. So yes, I have no issue with supply. I have issues like supply controls that we can't control, but we got to get in better control of just getting a timeline. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Did he give you any indication as to how close we are to the finalized document?
He did not when I was on the phone, Madam Mayor. He had some personal issues that he's just getting back to work with. So like I said, I expect we'll have that shortly.
Any other councillor comments? Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the flower program this year. They took the flowers out this past week, and a lot of work involved in that, I understand. But they were just absolutely gorgeous all summer long, and the crew did a great job. I just want to also comment on the garden project in Granton. I don't have the final numbers of what the donations were, but it's in the hundreds of pounds that the Granton Garden Project has donated to the Elsa Craig Food Bank. And the Little Sprouts program, they were able to do it on a limited basis, but the kids were all getting involved and doing some great stuff with their garden. They all got a pumpkin out of the deal. I understand some had to be purchased to make the numbers match, but it was all great. So yeah, it was a really good year for all of that. We get into talking about business, and we kind of sometimes will forget that there are these little gems in our community that are just amazing. So I got to say that it really brightened up my day when I go for a walk around town to see the flowers and to meet our crew or staff out there and have a quick chat on the way by. So I know a lot of people really enjoy that. So that's my 2 cents.
That's awesome. Thanks, Alex. Councillor Hodgins, I saw your hand up.
Thank you. I've noticed behind the community center where the new playground's going in by the Ball Diamond here in Lucan. It looks like the location has shifted a bit from where it was originally planned, I guess, to get out of the foul ball territory. But I did notice that it's kind of encroaching a little bit onto the track, and I'm just wondering, ultimately, once that gets finished, is it going to impact the track, or is it kind of right at the limit of it? And I guess, is that track used much, and what is it used for?
Ron.
If I can take a stab at answering that. Paul's not here, but I believe the track is used by quite a few people. Now, the original track was obviously used for harness racing, which we don't use anymore, thank goodness. It was a bit of a safety issue, but anyway,
it's fun.
We're much better now. So the track is planned to be narrowed, so it will be a more standard width. So yes, it is going to encroach a little bit on the track, but the track is scheduled to be narrowed as part of the phase 2 project. So and the location of the playground was moved in recognition of some issues. Paul was pretty good when those issues were raised. We had another look at it, and he and his staff and decided that, we can move it further away to sort of address those concerns, those issues. And so yeah, kudos to him and his staff. He's responding to 2 complaints and 2 issues from members of the public and trying to address those. So I think I answered your questions.
Sure did. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the comment that I have heard over and over again, that the track is probably because of COVID even used even more, that people have used it as a walking link in community. And I know when the master plan was drawn up for recreation, there's a section in there about coming up with a trail system within the community, and often that's often been a talk, and Councillor Regan can probably back me up at Parks and Rec, is that could be a link somehow. It's been talked about over the years. Do you take it out? Do you refigure it? As Ron said, there's a ton of history to that, in that it used to be a horse track. There used to be a barn back there, up until not many years ago. Lindenfield still had a barn that they would take their horse out. So there is a lot of history, and whether it gets reconfigured, but I think the thought is that at some point it becomes a link to the walkability of the community. I think I saw Councillor Regan's hand up.
I'll be brief, Madam Mayor. So first of all, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that our car wash is open, and the Deputy Mayor, I got your first wash for you. So just come and see me. We were using it. I think there was a staff member there. So both bays were being used. So I give it a thumbs up. So just encourage people to support that business. The other thing was a couple of Saturday nights ago, I attended a Junior C hockey game, and it was the home opener. So we went with a couple of neighbors out to see that. So I just want to remind people in the community, we have a pretty good Junior C team. We had quite a few people out there. And I was speaking with the president, Sandra Neubauer, was talking to her about it a couple of times, and wanting to get more involved in the community, sort of what was her message. So I just want to remind families, Saturday night, it's good entertainment. It's all walkable in our community, and it's pretty good family entertainment. So my plan is to get out to a few games for sure. Just really quickly, just wanted to thank Jeff and his crew for taking care of the sidewalk issues for us. I noticed there was some concerns from residents, and some of his boys are out there fixing the sidewalks up. And the very last thing is that the Ontario vaccine passport's available. You can put it on your phone, and I'm very proud about this, because if I can do this, anybody can do it, right? So for those people who can and want to get this, I've already used it twice. It's good for me. So again, if I can do it, you can do it. All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Regan. Just further on the junior game, certainly the last few games, they've had great attendance. I believe there was over 400 people there on Saturday night. Of course, they did retire Nick Smith's jersey, so that was a great community event, and a great honor for the Smith family, of course. But on Thanksgiving Sunday, my husband and I volunteered. We worked the door, and there was a great crowd even on Thanksgiving Sunday in the afternoon. So hopefully we can keep that going. As Councillor Regan said, it's great entertainment. There's some local kids, and I do believe that Paul is working, or I know he is, working with the Lions Club, so that there will be a Blue Line Club there for any adults. Deputy Mayor Manders.
You know, Ron's been answering all those questions, Kathy. You should just say that Ron solved that problem. It's passed. There'll be alcohol.
Exactly. That's right.
Just inform Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One last call for councillor comments. Okay, moving on. There's no changes to budget. Any notices of motion? Then we'll go into our motions. The first one is that the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph receive the attached accounts as paid for information as follows. September 2021, $1,498,290.73. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed? That's carried. That the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph authorize Kathy Burkhart-Jessen to attend the 2022 Roma Virtual Conference on January 23rd to 25th, 2022 at a registration cost of $400 plus HST. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All opposed? That's carried. Moving into bylaws, that if no one cares to speak to bylaw 66-2021, and that's the one on the Clan-du-Bois drain, on its first and second reading, that it be considered to have been read a first time and passed and read a second time and passed. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan, Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed? And that's carried. And then we've got a number of bylaws, and they are bylaws number 67-2021 through 71-2021, and that if no one cares to speak to these on their first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, read a third time and passed. And I won't read all of them. They're there for your information. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed? And that's carried. And resolve that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:43 p.m. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all opposed?